So Miss Ford's testimony just ended. She's the first accuser of Kavanaugh that says that he sexually assaulted her at a party 30-something odd years ago. And I just wanted to give my initial impressions of it before I see the spinsters on the media discuss what they think of it. I thought you have to understand that there's 3, even maybe more possibilities with Ford's testimony. She could be 100% truthful, she could be 100% lying, or it could be somewhere in between. Maybe she's misremembering, or maybe she interpreted what happened to her more aggressively than what it actually was, or maybe it was different people. But we don't know. But it's completely telling the truth, completely lying, or anywhere in between. I would argue that no matter what those situations, what she just went through would probably be one of the most difficult moments in her life. To stand in front of so many cameras with basically the entire country watching you, to be questioned by powerful people like this would be very difficult. And even if you think she's 100% lying, like, you have to take that into account. So I've seen people saying things like, oh, she was laughing and stuff, and that proves that, she was smiling. That proves this must not have been serious. I disagree 100%. I thought she carried herself well. So that's just my feelings on that. Now, the problem is I don't really learn anything more. Like, she seems emotional. I assumed she would be. I gave that the benefit of the doubt. Any woman that went through this would be emotional, or any person for that matter would be emotional, I would assume. So I didn't see anything. I didn't expect to see anything, and nor did I see that was like, oh, she's like totally flippant about this or something like that. Didn't see anything like that. So I just didn't learn anything new. She's named people that were at the party. All of them that she's named, like, yeah, I wasn't there. She doesn't know the time that it happened. She doesn't know the place that it happened. She doesn't remember who brought her there. And we learned that it would probably have at least been a 20-minute, I think, based on the little map they showed, just a little math in my head, at least a 15-minute drive, I'd say. It was 20 minutes to the country club, and she said the club was within like a mile radius, so that would be 5 minutes closer to her house. So it would have been at least like 15 minutes or so to her house. But she doesn't remember who drove her there, which makes sense. If it was an innocuous party, I probably wouldn't remember. But then she goes through this horrific scenario, and she escapes. She thought she might accidentally be killed, and she definitely thought she was going to be raped. This would be horribly traumatic. She kind of runs out the door, and she acknowledges she must have had a ride. It would a 15-minute drive to her house, so she wasn't going to walk that far. Yet she doesn't remember who gave her that ride. And that seems it just seems crazy to me. Now, I know people say, but the medical literature says trauma can have crazy effects on your memory. But if we accept that as true, then how can you 100% be confident that it was, when she says it was 100% Kavanaugh that did this to me? Like, if people say, well, you would never forget that. You would never forget who your assaulter was. But by the same token, wouldn't you forget who how would you forget who your savior was? It just seems like this trauma excuse is, I'm trying to give the woman the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not saying she's lying or anything like that, but it seems like everyone wants to jump on and be like, anything she says that's a discrepancy needs to be disregarded because trauma, it's the end-all be-all. Trauma could affect anything, therefore we can't investigate when she changes her story or huge lapses in it, we can't look at it because of trauma, but we do have to take her word that she's 100% certain on the thing she is certain. It just seems awfully convenient that the people that want Kavanaugh to be guilty take that stance. My argument is I could also look at the medical literature and say that it shows that people could be the most truthful-looking, innocent, innocuous, intelligent people that you would ever see, and they could be lying straight to your face. So can I cite that medical literature and go, who cares if she seems credible? Medical literature says you could seem credible and still be a bold-faced liar, therefore we shouldn't view how she looked. Of course not. They would say that's ridiculous. So I think it's reasonable to ask, like, how do you not remember who you think just saved you from a rape? And it wasn't like they saved her for 5 seconds and then we're gone. Like, she rode in a car for 15 minutes with this person or people, whoever they were. It just seems so strange. And this case is so public, like, I don't know. I'll skip that part. I was just going to say, you would assume that if someone did save her, she would have been horribly shaken up and they would have noticed something was wrong and asked questions or something of that case. But no, instead we don't get any names. So what are we supposed to do? And there were also, the testimony showed she had little changes to her story left and right. She, like, 3 or 4 times changed the number of people that were there, the genders of the people that were there. She claimed in her written testimony that the music was really loud and she lost locked herself in a bathroom, but she could hear the boys downstairs, and it was like, well, what was the conversation? Well, I don't know. I didn't really hear them. Oh, so you didn't hear them at all? Well, I just assumed they were talking. So, like, that was a change. Again, does that mean she's lying? No, but it just shows that her memory is very fluid on this. Like, you try dredging up a situation that happened 30 years ago, like, your memory is going to be fluid. And again, I get it. People that think Kavanaugh are guilty will say, yes, but she remembers the attacker and you would never forget that. But wouldn't you also remember the savior? I'm just saying that I'm not saying she wasn't attacked. I'm not even saying it wasn't Kavanaugh. It could have been. I don't know. But there's just no proof. What am I supposed to do with that? I'm sure that you could have all kinds of people. Like, we have it, Kavanaugh's testimony will be coming up. Let's see how he acts. Will he be as credible as her? Will he be less credible? I don't know. We'll have to see what he does. But unless he really drops the ball, what is a reasonable person supposed to think? You didn't press charges at the time. Okay, we get it, trauma. You don't remember most of the key details and some of your story has changed. Okay, trauma. And all the people you say that were at the party with you, it's claimed to have no memory of it. And you don't remember the time or the place. It's just he said, she said. I'm not saying that I have a specific, granted that she was caught in these little lies, but I'm not saying that's reason to totally throw out her argument or her claims, but it has to have some kind of effect on her ability to remember, which is, I think, what's at question here. Because what's going to happen now is there's going to be two things that's going to come out from the Republican side. One is these claims that apparently a couple of gentlemen came forward and said, actually, we think it was us that were the ones that assaulted her, not Judge and Kavanaugh, and they've apparently testified to that case. I don't know if that's true or not, but the claim's going to be like, how do we know? How can she be 100% sure if she doesn't remember all these other details? So her memory will just be taken into account, and the Republicans are going to say that. The other thing that what I am certain of after this testimony is that the Democrats are absolutely despicable, disgusting pigs. Mitchell, who was the woman that did the testimony for the Republicans, a lot of people I saw, they didn't like the format, which I didn't either, where basically Mitchell would speak for 5 minutes and was actually, I thought, was very respectful and did things exactly the right way. She didn't come at her with fire and brimstone. She was very respectful to this woman, and she deserves to be applauded for that. And I think that all the Democrats that were out there saying, oh, they want to bring in this woman because, that's just going to grill them and because they're afraid as old white men, blah, blah, blah. What a bunch of crap. They brought in a woman who handled this respectfully like it should have been handled in the first place. And I think that she just did a fantastic job. Now, a lot of people, though, are upset that want to defend Kavanaugh, saying, yeah, but she wasn't hard-hitting. Well, what is there to be hard-hitting about? Like, she got the couple discrepancies there was, but there's no, what can you really go after? She doesn't have any details. She just has her accusation. Do you really, there's not a lot of parsing to go with that. It's just, you don't know how you got there. You don't know the time. You don't know the place. There's a bunch of little details you got wrong. Okay, that's all there is to say about the incident. Now, where she did spend her time, and it was very strategic, particularly at the end, I thought, was proving that the Democrats are the dirtbags that have politicized this all along. Now, here's the story. As if you've seen my other videos, you know this. Feinstein gets these allegations in early July. She sits on them the entire time until the week before Kavanaugh was going to be voted upon. Now, they asked Ford in these questions, what was your intent? Why did you send this? Things like that. And she's like, well, I didn't want this guy. Once I saw that he was going to be nominated, I didn't want him on the court, which would seem reasonable if the guy tried to rape you. You would think that. So, she talks to people, sent a letter to the Washington Post, ended up talking to our congressman, ultimately ends up getting in touch with Dianne Feinstein. And her testimony was I wanted to get this out there so that the people that were voting on confirming Kavanaugh would have this information and be willing to use that in their decision as to whether or not to confirm this person, which, if she's telling the truth, seems very reasonable. That seems like something you would want. Then why did Feinstein not give that information to the court? To anyone in the Senate. She didn't give it to the FBI. She didn't give it to anyone in the Senate. Now, Feinstein in the past has said the reason for that was, well, because she requested that she remain anonymous. Yes, but she also requested that the information go out. You didn't have to give her name to set the information and the claim out there. The FBI was still doing a background check when Feinstein got this. So if she would have immediately put this forth to the FBI and to the Judiciary Committee, They would have been able to ask Kavanaugh in all the hours of testimony, written questions. The FBI would have been able to look into this charge. They could have got this woman the help that she needs to talk to people that could get her full story, things of that nature. But instead, they sat on it. They went against the woman's wishes. Now, you might say, well, then why wouldn't the woman be upset? Well, that's what all of Mitchell's questions were other than that. She starts to question, like, how did you get this lawyer? Who recommended this lawyer? Well, you know, I kind of see some Democrats ended up doing it. Feinstein recommended the first law firm I got. And who recommended you got the polygraph? Well, it was these lawyers. And who paid for all that? Well, it was kind of the lawyers. Oh, so they're setting you up with all this. Yeah, and they're the ones that recommended you go about things this way. Yes. The picture's starting to add up. She went to the wrong people. She went to people that said, we don't care about this alleged abuse. We don't care about you at all. All we care about is using this as a political weapon. We're going to sit on it for 6 weeks against your wishes. They didn't tell her that. They were like, oh, yeah, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. She didn't know what was going on. And now these are the people whispering in her ear anyways, right? So they're not going to say, yeah, we screwed you over. But you could tell that's where Mitchell was going with this. Instead of, she, as someone who as a prosecutor who interviews victims of sexual assault all the time, she correctly lays out, and she does it in such a brilliant way where she lays out, well, you know, actually, this is a really bad format for, like, remembering situations like this, particularly sexual abuse of years ago. And everyone's kind of, she's like, actually, you know, 5 minutes at a time is not a good thing. We should have done this in private in a long-form interview where you're allowed to talk, and I just kind of listen and then add little things in. And her lawyers even laugh. Yeah, that's a good point. And then she's like, basically, wasn't it a shame? That's not what your lawyers recommended. Instead, they immediately said, go take a polygraph. And then the other thing that's absolutely damning is she step by step went through with Ford. Who did you send this letter to? And basically she got her to admit, only Democrats and my lawyer. And then who leaked the letter then? You know, Ford doesn't know who leaked the letter, but there's only one possibility. It was the people that are pretending to be her allies, the Democrats. So when the Democrats then get up and grandstand, as each of them did the entire time, and they say, oh, the death threat she's received, her life, to come forward like this, her life's just been turned upside down, which all that's probably true. But who put her in that position? It was the Democrats. That's who's responsible for all this. If they would have done things the right way, if they would have put her in touch with someone who could have helped her with the FBI when they first received these allegations, who could have properly allowed the allegations to be delivered to the Senate Commission, where they could have questioned Kavanaugh, had an investigation, and her name wouldn't have been made public. It wouldn't be a public spectacle. But that's just it. The Democrats want the public spectacle. They want her to get death. Well, I won't say that. I'm not saying they want her to get death threats, but it certainly will politicize the fact that they did, and they know they're the ones who made that happen. They're willing to take the risk of her getting death threats and her life being turned upside down as long as they could use this as a political weapon instead of doing the right thing and leaving the correct process go about. And now all of their speech, all it was grand. It was grandstanding. There was a lot of thank you for being here, which I don't mind. And then a lot of grandstanding. And then a lot of the FBI needs to investigate this now. Very little on actually asking her relevant questions and getting to the truth. It wasn't like the Republican time was spent being like, gotcha, and like attacking her. It was like, we're trying to get to the facts of what was going on around this. The Democrats were just like, you're a hero, Trump's bad, the FBI needs to investigate this. What does that have to do with getting to the truth? It's just ridiculous. And it just shows that it's more about politicizing it. And then, of course, what you'll hear, like, during the breaks and everything is just constantly, oh, she's credible, we need an FBI investigation. This is all about delaying it till after the midterms. That is all they care about. That's it. That's all they care about. And they're willing to jeopardize this woman's safety and jeopardize her livelihood just so they could get that. Because they know, had they released this information 6 weeks ago, even if this woman's telling the truth, there's a chance that the FBI would have looked and said, just like they did when the FBI looked at Clarence Thomas in 91, the FBI came out and said, we have no evidence that he committed sexual abuse or anything of that nature. And so then what? If the FBI comes to that conclusion, do you think all these Democrats will go, oh, okay, fair enough, that's good enough for us, we'll vote now? Of course not. They're still going to go, well, just because they didn't find evidence doesn't mean that he didn't do it, so he's still a monster, I'm still voting no. Because it's all just a delaying tactic. And so I think, here's what I would recommend. If Ms. Ford would happen to see this, which I get like 30 people that watch my videos, so I don't anticipate it all, I would suggest that you go talk to someone impartial, not a Republican pundit or someone from the Republican side or Democrat. Talk to a real person whose number one concern is one thing, you. What happened to you? Talk to them. Let them look at what the details was. Ask yourself, were the people that you went to, did they have your best interests in mind? And I suggest that if really you believe it was Kavanaugh, that you need to file a criminal report. My understanding is the statute of limitations is still open in Maryland on this case. File a criminal report. Why would you, if for you it should be just all about justice, right? So why not file the criminal report, and even if, let the vote go on, who cares? You know that Kavanaugh is a monster, so if he gets put in the court, so what? The criminal court will do things the right way, and they'll charge him because there'll be enough evidence, and then that charge will probably be enough to get him impeached, and then maybe he'll even end up in jail, which, by the way, is where he should be if he did these things. Yet none of the three accusers have filed a criminal charge, even though they're able to. Why is that? I don't want the guy to just lose his job if he's some kind of rapist. He should be in jail. Like, I don't understand. I feel like I'm the only one saying that. Like, all the Democrats are like, well, it's not a trial. It's just a job hearing. No, it's not. It's a rapist. I care about the victims, Now, the last thing I'll say is there was a lot of, blatant lies that got pointed out, like her fear of flying. She claimed originally she couldn't come to a hearing on Monday because she had a fear of flying and couldn't make it on time. Turns out that's not true. She flies all over the place. She claimed she had no idea that the Republicans were willing to fly out to interview her there, which is strange because even I knew about that, as did anyone who has access to an internet or television. It was made public that they said this, but somehow she didn't know. And at first, when I was watching it, I was like, wow, she's really lying about this. But the more I think about it, I don't know if she is. I think she was basically sequestered with these Democratic operatives and lawyers, and they're basically just feeding her a line of bull. She seemed very much like when they were like, we were going to fly out and leave you testify from your home. She seemed very receptive. Was like, yes, I would have preferred that. And they're like, we offered you that. And she was like, no, I didn't know that. Probably because she's kind of off on her own, going through some really tough stuff, getting death threats and stuff. And her lawyers, who are Democratic operatives, they don't want the testimony to be at home, kind of in private. They want it to be public so they could grandstand, right? And keep the allegation in the public ear that Kavanaugh is some kind of monster, or some kind of assaulter or something. That was the best situation for them. So once more, they didn't have her best interests in mind. They lied to her and said, no. And then I think it was probably them that also released the statement saying she's afraid of flying. That's why she won't be there. I bet that was her lawyers again. Because again, it was all about delaying as much as possible. What is best? Oh, I almost dropped my computer. What is best for this woman wasn't the number one thing on their mind. That's, to me, the most important thing out of this is that as close as we can get to the truth be found. I still think after this testimony, I would vote to confirm Kavanaugh based strictly. And let me put it this way. I would not vote against confirming him based strictly on these allegations because I still haven't seen any proof, and I still believe in innocent until proven guilty. But the best thing that can happen is to get to the truth as much as possible. But the second most important thing, especially if you're her counsel or her lawyers, would be the most important thing is your client's well-being. And they are clearly not operating with that interest as their number one interest. They are operating as their number one interest. How can we do things to our political advantage? And I think that's a disgrace. And I think that even if this woman's telling the truth, and if she is, I hope that we find out, and I hope that Kavanaugh goes to jail if that's what happened and isn't confirmed, right? I really, from the bottom of my heart, if it's proven that he did this, that's what I think should happen. Particularly the third allegations, which I think are totally uncredible, but about gang rape and stuff. But whatever the penalty is for attempted rape or gross assault like that, he should suffer that even now, though he would have been a child, so it's not worth getting into. Anyways, it makes him a terrible person, and he definitely shouldn't be on the court. I believe that. But I don't want to see this politicized, though, right? I think that her pain, if this happened, is real, and she deserves justice, and justice isn't just, yay, the Democrats use this as a political win to delay a confirmation. That's ridiculous. Get get a criminal prosecutor involved, get the police involved, let the people whose jurisdiction it is do the investigation. But we shouldn't reward the Democrats' behavior here of politicizing this by delaying the vote or anything of that nature. Because if they get away with it this time, then the next woman that they'll weaponize these allegations all the time, and they're clearly don't have the victim's best interest at heart. It's all about politics. So they'll do this to some other poor lady, and they'll accept. You already see them accepting accusations that are totally like, there was a fourth accuser that came out. Turns out it was just like some handwritten note scrawled with no return address, anonymous allegation thrown in a mailbox, and NBC's reporting that like that's a real news story. That's something any sixth grader could have done. 4chan could do that. Are we going to start taking 4chan allegations about like Feinstein molesting them is proof of anything to have investigations? NBC's going to put 4chan allegations up? Of course not. But, some handwritten letter, as long as it fits along with their political ideology, yeah, we'll broadcast it like it's real news. It's clearly just been all about politics for these people the whole time. So, again, in a nutshell, I thought the woman came off sounding okay. I didn't learn anything that further buttressed her claims whatsoever. I didn't see anything that really made me say, oh, she's such a big liar or something, that I don't believe her at all. But I would still vote I wouldn't allow this to disqualify Kavanaugh. We'll see what he says, how he looks in his testimony. But the real thing I got out of this is the Democrats are horrible people. The Republicans ended up, even though I hope they don't delay any further, I thought that they ended up looking very good in the sense that the woman they chose was brilliant. She was very polite. She wasn't aggressive or mean to Ford, and I'm happy that, I hope that Ford would agree that she was treated fairly and respectfully, and I'm glad that the Republicans chose someone who did that. And I think we should all remember at the midterms who it was that were using this politically, who were the scumbags that put this woman through this, who held on to her allegation against her will for almost let Kavanaugh get, and waited till the last minute before Feinstein told the committee, who leaked the details so that she's getting death threats and things like that and had her life turned out. Also the Democrats. That's, we need to remember. And the media won't tell you this. The mainstream media, they'll be out there, oh, the Republicans hate women and the Democrats are champions of women. Absolute garbage. If you're involved in the Me Too movement, I implore you to look at what's really going on and how they set on these allegations. I'm not saying you have to like the Republicans, hate them too, but vote third party. Don't reward this. Don't leave them use your issue, the pain of actual women victims or men victims, any victims of sexual violence. It's just a political stepping stone. It's disgusting. It's horrible, and we should all reject it.